Travel isn't just where you go, it's how you show up. From hidden corners of Japan to the power of cultural etiquette, Miyuki Seguchi joins me today to talk immersive travel, meaningful connection, and seeing the world differently. Welcome to The Human Adventure. This is a podcast about people, their journeys, their challenges, and the adventures that shape who they become. Here we explore the moments that test us, the risks that move us forward, and the stories that remind us what it means to be human. Because it's not about the destination, it's about the human adventure. Before we jump in, a quick reminder to follow the show on Instagram and YouTube. Just search for Human Adventure Pod. And if you're enjoying these conversations, take a moment to leave a rating or review. It really helps the show grow, and I would really appreciate it. And if today's conversation about Japan sparked something for you, I want to point you all the way back to episode 29 with James Hammond, host of the Winging It Travel podcast, where James shares some incredible adventures, including his own trip to Japan. Now, let's get into today's conversation with Miyuki Seguchi. All right, everybody. I am joined by Miyuki Seguchi. She's given me the okay that I said it okay. I struggle with people's names. It's a common thing for me. I struggle with it. But Miyuki, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. You pronounced my name perfectly.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I have a buddy from Australia who always makes fun of me that I pronounce people's names wrong. So anyway, I'm glad I got yours right. And yours, Japanese, that's a little tougher. So, and you are Japanese. You're from Japan. So we're going to talk a lot about Japan. Before we dive into kind of what you do, and I know you take a lot of people on tours, especially in your home country there of Japan, but I know there's more to you than that. Give us a little background, kind of where you're from, where you grew up, just a little background on Miyuki so we know who you are a little bit.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your question. So I grew up in a totally monolingual environment of a countryside town in central Japan. So one of the things I really liked when I was small was watching a weekly TV show that features Japanese people visiting different parts of the world and spending a week actually with a local family. So their destinations were always different. So one time it was a pizzeria in Italy, or other people visited a cake shop in the Eastern European countries, and other visited a tribe in Africa or in the rural areas of the Asian countries or the Papua New Guinea. And they had meals together, participated in their daily activities, and really got to know the people and their culture. And in the end, they all seem to have built deep bonds with locals and be truly inspired by their adventures. And I really liked these TV shows because I was fascinated and encouraged by the fact that the world is so big. And I got very curious about learning different cultures and meeting people from different countries. So although I grew up in a really small town in the totally monolingual environment, I was always kind of like open to the world. And I was always curious about learning about other countries and their life, the people's lives and cultures.
So it started watching a TV show. That's kind of what sparked your interest. You saw a TV show that was taking you outside of your little confines of your small little town in central Japan, watching people go into these other countries, seeing what they're doing. Awesome. How old were you when you started watching this? Were you a teenager, younger than that?
I think like younger than that. Yeah.
Really? Okay. All right. So you
Yeah.
were elementary school age. I don't know if they call
Kind
it
of. Yeah.
elementary
Yeah.
school.
Around that
Okay.
time. Yeah.
And family, is you small family, mom, dad, brother, sisters, just you? What's kind of what was the family situation like?
So I have an older sister. I lived with my family, include basically at that time I lived with my grandparents, my parents, and my sister.
Gotcha. Grandparents, parents, sister, and you. And you're the
Yes.
baby of the family. You have an older sister than you. All right, awesome. Okay, so you're watching this, you're getting excited seeing there's a whole nother world out there besides just your little small town in Japan. And I think you went off and studied abroad when you turned 18. But tell me about that.
Yes. So I basically decided to study abroad when I was at the age of 18 because I wanted to see the world. So I hardly spoke English when I first moved to the UK. But yes, slowly picked up somehow and managed to stay there for 5 years in total for my undergraduate and postgraduate degree, actually.
Really? 5 years. So you like, okay, I'm going to go to the UK to study 5 years. You stayed there for 5 years.
So the first 4 years, that was kind of like foundation program on my undergraduate degree. And then like I went back to Japan. And then like after a few years, several years, I decided to do my master's and I went back to the UK to do my master's.
All right. Tell me about this. Going to the UK, you said you didn't speak very much English. Was it scary? Was it overwhelming? Or were you just like, you had no fear? Like, how did you do this?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. I I think I was like nervous, but let me put it this way. I didn't know enough about how the different culture, how the different country really works, that I didn't have enough fear. That's why I was able to, I was able to make that decision at that kind of younger age, I think. Now I think
Like
about it.
that. I like that because I think sometimes if we know too much, we get in our own heads and we make ourselves scared of something that we think we know too much about. You didn't know. So now if you look back, you might have been like, okay, yeah, that was pretty scary, but you didn't have that. So you went forward with it. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I made a good decision. Yeah, that's actually like going to the UK to study. That was one of the best decisions I made in my life. Yeah.
Very good. And I think from that point, that kind of was a springboard for you to do other travels. I think you went and solo traveled for a little bit. I think you met people. I was reading your bio, I think Italy or something. So yeah, tell me about some of these adventures you did, springboarding from the UK.
Yes, yes, of course. So while studying in the UK, I got the opportunity to not only travel across the UK, but also visit many European countries, including the France, Spain, the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, Austria, and Czech Republic. But one of my most memorable experiences was my first international solo trip I took when I was 18 or 19 years old, and I went to Italy to visit my friends I had met in Scotland during my summer school and stayed in Potenza, charming hilly city in southern Italy just before Christmas. Have you heard of the name before?
Tell me the name again. What was the name again?
Potenza. I think that's
Polenta?
how. Potenza.
Potenta. I haven't heard of Potenta, but southern Italy, you said.
Yes,
Okay.
and it's a very small town also.
Okay.
So it's not a typical town the Japanese people would visit. Or I think that nowadays may have the change, the situation may have changed, but especially during that time, it wasn't really a touristy town or anything. I visited there because I had a friend there. So I flew from Scotland. I was living in Scotland actually for my first
Okay.
year in the UK. So I flew from Scotland to Rome, then Naples, where I was the only Asian passenger on my second flight.
Okay. So you were the only Asian passenger. How was that for you? I mean, was that kind of like, uh-oh.
So again, it was my first proper solo trip, right? So I had enough courage
Yeah.
and I didn't know again enough about how the world works really. So I was very brave, I think. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
a flight attendant spoke to me Italian, and I had no idea what she was saying. So luckily, the Italian gentleman sitting next to me helped translate. So
Gotcha.
he
He
told
he
me
spoke
that.
the gentleman next to you spoke English,
So
and so
this
he helped
Italian
translate
Yeah,
Italian?
so
Okay.
Italian gentleman sitting next to me helped me translate. So like while we chatted, he kind of like that kind of like moment, like reassured me. But the real challenge actually came where I landed. So my luggage never arrived. So
Dear.
I was supposed to meet my friend at the airport, but at that time, with no mobile phone, so I had no way to contact her. So I felt completely lost and panicked. Then, that suddenly the automatic that door opened, and my friend was there to save me. So that
And
was
there she
okay.
is. All right.
Yeah. So, but later I found out my luggage had been sent to the long airport, basically. Yeah, but that's kind of like how the trip started. But during my entire trip, I stayed with my friend's house, which gave me glimpse into everyday Italian life far beyond what you found in a guidebook. So I tried to adapt to their customs, like eating late dinners and gathering in big groups and learned a few Italian phrases to communicate. So that trip taught me that you can make meaningful connections even if you don't speak the same language or even if you don't visit famous tourist spots. And that's what first drove me to travel deeply and seek immersive experiences.
That's an interesting way to look at it because I think a lot of us, when we think about traveling somewhere, first of all, we go to the places that we hear about or that we're comfortable with, especially when you don't speak the language. And I think you learned a lot from that. I think you learned the fact that, hey, like you said, I didn't speak the language, but it was okay. You got used to the culture. You're kind of in a smaller town. You're like, I want to live like they live. I'm going to eat late. I'm going to be in the big groups. We're going to do the different things. And you did that. And that sparked something in you. Do you think,
Yes.
do you think that's really what kind of was because I know now you specialize in that in your home country of helping people find those like, instead of just going, people think, oh, Tokyo, or they think these big places to go visit. You're like, no, 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 no. You want to get Japanese culture, there's other ways to do it. I'm guessing that was such a big influence on you then.
Exactly, exactly. Yes. Yeah, now I think about it. And because of that experience, I was more curious about traveling deeper and having experiences with locals or getting some of hands-on experiences with the local culture, right? Get to know more about local culture. That's kind of became the foundation of my travel style. So that's why that definitely lead to what I do in Japan, and especially like immersive travel, like these like deeper like cultural experiences, travel deeply. That's definitely became the foundation of the yes
Of what
the
you
business
do,
I
yeah,
I ran.
of your business.
Yes.
Before we jump over there, because now I definitely want to talk about Japan and all Japan has to offer. And obviously we got you here, so we might as well take advantage of that and hear all we can about Japan and what's going on there. But before we do that, let's go back kind of, that experience, the 4 or 5 years that you had in the UK, going all over Europe. What were some other places? So Italy, profound impact on you. You flew from Scotland, you're the only Asian on the plane, the whole bit. They missed your luggage. That's what's so fun about travel too. There's always these experiences that we can't plan for that just happen and we have to learn to deal with them. Was there any other places in Europe that you were just fascinated by the culture that you're like, wow, I didn't realize this was here?
So there are a lot of experiences. Now, the one place that kind of me, like when you are trying to introduce the question was maybe like Czech Republic.
Czech Republic.
Because at that time, like at least because I was living in the UK and I've been to like many 10 Europe, so to speak. And the Czech was, like the Prague, for example, like a lot of British people visited the Prague at that time also. But it was kind of like different. Although it's like same Europe, it's like
Hmm.
I felt it very different. I found that beer was even cheaper than water, but also the culture they got was a little bit different from what I was used to in the like
Gotcha. Okay. Very good. So yeah, okay, that's interesting. Czech Republic. I think I've had one person talk about Czech Republic on the show. I'd be curious to learn a little bit more about the Czech Republic because it just seems very fascinating, very interesting. But Japan seems really I've never been to Japan. I always have people whenever I talk to people about, hey, where's places you want to go? Japan always seems to be on people's list. People want to visit, and including mine. I want to visit Japan. I know my son wants to visit. And I just have people who tell me, they want to visit Japan. So tell me when you went back, you didn't start this business immediately. What were you doing were you involved in travel before you started your own thing, or kind of what did you do before you got started on your own?
okay, great. Thank you for asking that. So the first job I got was actually a travel journalist, and
Travel
I got
journalist. Okay.
but I was working for a Japanese publication. But I got to meet so many people, like the executives, like marketing specialists from the big airlines, or the destinations, like, the DMOs, like the destination management, like
Yeah.
organizations and like the people, like, the country's tourism boards. And I got to meet all these people trying to sell their destinations to Japanese people, basically. Because at that time, inbound tourism in Japan wasn't so big. The market wasn't so big yet, but more Japanese people were trying to visit like the overseas. And all these, like, the country, like the people from these like destination trying to sell their destinations to the Japanese people. So I was one of the journalists trying to, talk to these people, like interview these executives and to see what's new, what's interesting, like why Japanese people should visit your country. So I was doing that kind of job.
Okay, interesting. All right. How long did you do that?
So I did that until I decided to move back to the UK to do my master's in journalism because I wanted to become an English writing journalist because at that time I was the interviewing in English, but I was writing in Japanese. So the audience was Japanese people, but I wanted to be, the I wanted to become a global kind of like I wanted to work on the global scale. So I decided to do my master's degree to get my master's degree in the UK. So that's how I kind of like build my career.
Okay,
Yes.
very good.
Yes. But then like after I came back, I saw like the best opportunity for the Japanese kind of like non-native Japanese speaker to become a English writing journalist was to work to be specialized in financial journalism, actually. There are, the news wires and the newspapers specialized in the financial news. And
Yeah.
these were kind of like the easy entry to for me, at least. I was specialized in financial journalism. And then like I came back to Japan to work as a financial journalist for several years again. And then like I eventually moved into the corporate communication field, and I helped the big corporate to provide, the interesting things to the journalists. So I was on the other side of the kind of like, and then like I was doing that for several years again, but then like I, I don't know if I'm a corporate kind of person. I should, and like I actually worked for like actually like I was involved in many different industries, right? And then like find like I always kind of like wonder, is this something I want to promote, right? Because like unless you have a passion for that, it's really hard to, sell things. It's hard to promote things to people, right? And then
100%.
like, yeah, that kind of like the one day I kind of like realized I always like felt so relax whenever I came back to my hometown. And then like I always wanted to kind of like do something to help lesser known, less visit areas to be more like known to the wider audience, basically. Like I was kind of like trying to like think like whether I should continue my corporate career or whether I really want to do something like I'm more passionate about. And then like I decided to work independently eventually. And I actually like studied for about a year to become a licensed guide. And at the same time, I was working with like local governments to help promote their tourism. And I was doing that kind of job. And then like eventually after I got my licensed guide, so I passed my licensed guide exam and I was living in Tokyo for the whole time. But
Wow.
then
Okay.
like I should really move back to my home region to really to be on the ground to provide tours and to, to help like people realize the charms of the rural areas, the charms of the lesser visit yet there is like so much to discover. That kind of like area is out there, so I wanted to kind of like move back to my home region to do that. So that's where I am, and I've been doing this for the past several years now.
Oh, okay. So that's where you are. You're in your hometown, I guess, or close to it at least, where you grew up?
Yes, I'm based in central Japan. Yes,
Okay, Central
so
Japan.
that's yes, yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned something. You talked about kind of less visited places, like I said, people when they visit Japan, they're thinking Kyoto and Tokyo and these places that are popular, but you are really good at specializing in some of the less visited places. Can you give me an example of what that would be? Like if someone says, "All right, I want to go to Japan. I want to get that feel for the culture but I don't want to, I don't necessarily want to go to these places." Yeah, give me an example or two of what that is.
Yes. So, a good question. So, I live in central Japan, meaning that, so, if you can think about the geography in Japan, Tokyo, Japan's capital, is located in the eastern part of Japan. And you may have heard of the name like Kyoto or Osaka. These two big cities are located in the western part of Japan. And usually, people travel by Shinkansen, the high speed train network,
Yeah.
to travel between these two cities because Tokyo and Kyoto are definitely like on their list, usually on their bucket list, usually. And what between these two cities are the big region called Central Japan. That's where I live, actually. So, like what happened is that, like I said, people travel through it, but
Yeah.
not
But then
many people actually get off and explore.
yeah.
So, but it's because you are coming like to my region anyway. So what I'm kind of like encouraging more people to do is just get off the train and to explore. You don't need to like go to like to take a airplane to go to another big another island, right? It's just on your way anyway, and there is like whole new, like whole different types of experiences are waiting for you, basically. So that's what I
Gotcha.
tried to do.
Okay. So basically, instead of just passing through like most people do, most people just hop on the train and they're just going right by Miyuki's house, just boom, just going right through there, passing your house, not even stopping. You're saying, hey, take a minute, not a minute, a day or two or whatever.
Yeah.
Stop. You're going that way anyway. Stop, get off, check it out. What does Central Japan have why would people want to stop there?
Yes. So the central Japan, so what makes this region so unique is that it is Japan's manufacturing center. So it's home to a rich community of artisans and craftspeople. So creating
Interesting.
everything from pottery and handcrafted paper to samurai swords, kitchen knives, and kimono fabric, and keeping the tradition alive. I want my guests to really experience the Japanese culture and get a glimpse into the everyday lives of the people. There is another thing. So another things like I specialized in is actually samurai history and culture. And that's what the central region is known for actually. So it's a home to a few original castles that they date back to over 400 years ago and other historically significant sites related to the samurai period also. So I often include a visit to one of these samurai castles as a highlight of the tour because it really helps even the travelers understand the roots of the modern day Japan. Yeah, that's also what I do.
Okay. This is good. So when you create these tours, let's take example like someone like me. I've never been to Japan. I want to go to Japan. For a first time person going to Japan, what kind of things could you help me with? What kind of things do you help offer? Take us through a first timer who's never been to Japan and wants to go. What would you do?
Yes, thank you. So, just like to give you and the listeners a bit of background about myself. So, I'm a licensed guide in Japan, but I don't just offer tours. I work quite differently from most guides here. So, most guides in Japan work with travel agencies,
Hmm.
so which often means taking guests to the major attractions. But those places are great, but I've always felt Japan is so much more than its famous sites. So what inspires me is helping travelers discover local, less visit areas and create deeper, more meaningful experiences through interactions with locals and connections with the culture. So just like what I've experienced myself on trip to Italy. So, Japan has an incredible diversity of culture, landscapes, and traditions. But if you only stay in the major cities or visit the same places everyone else goes to, especially now that so many areas are crowded, so your experience can feel quite limited. So, to create something more memorable, planning and preparations are key, especially with the language and cultural barriers many travelers face in Japan. So, that's why I support travelers from the planning stage also, so they can explore Japan with confidence and cultural understanding. So, for example, one of the most common challenges people have is deciding where to go because there are so many options. It's hard to
Mhm.
choose what's best for their interests, and creating a well-paced itineraries is another challenge. So I definitely help people with that. And also the logistics, booking traditional inns and navigating public transport can be also tricky, so especially with local customs. Expectations are not always explained clearly. So I also help people with the logistics. And many travelers also want more than sightseeing, and they want meaningful, authentic experiences. But accessing those deeper cultural moments is difficult without a local knowledge or support.
Yeah.
So that's actually where I come in. So I help travelers create a personalized itinerary that reflects their interests. I give them the local knowledge and the cultural context they need to travel with confidence and truly appreciate Japan. So that's the overall package I provide, as well as the in-person tours in my home region.
Okay, so you will provide tours in your home region, but you're far more than that. You're providing the pre-planning. Because yeah, like you said, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I want to go to Japan. All I can think of is, Osaka, Tokyo. Like you said, the big places, the attractions, the places that have the attractions. But, I might want to get, a glimpse into some of that deeper culture and things like that. So I love the fact that you provide that. Maybe some cultural nuances about Japan that maybe travelers miss, but that you'd like to help them discover? Like, what's something that I wouldn't even think about that you'd be like, "Hey, Jake, you ought to do this because of this."
Yes, that's excellent question. So that's actually one of the aspects I would love more travelers to be aware of, because Japan, the truth is that Japan has been experiencing a record-breaking tourism boom. In 2024, the number of international visitors reached nearly 37 million, and it's expected to hit a new record high again this year. So as a result, the cities you've heard of, like Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, are more crowded than ever. And roughly, the 70% of inbound visitors stay in Japan's three major urban areas. And that means there is a clear imbalance between famous cities and the rest of the countries. So the over-tourism is definitely a problem in the most popular destinations, but the real challenge is that Japan's tourism infrastructure hasn't had the time to catch up. So the pace of growth has been so fast over the past decade that many areas, especially rural ones, are still figuring out how to welcome visitors like sustainably. And this isn't just about transportation or logistics. It's also about the deep cultural norms that shapes everyday life here. So let me give you an example that surprised many visitors. So we don't have public trash cans in Japan. Why? Because it's part of the cultural value of keeping public spaces clean and taking your rubbish home. So it works here because we also don't typically eat while walking. So there is not as much waste generated in public. But also
Interesting.
there are small tricks for managing this. You can often hand back packaging to the shop you bought it from. Bins are sometimes placed next to vending machines and convenience stores. And at the train stations, you'll occasionally find designated rubbish areas. But for travelers, not knowing this ahead of time can lead to frustration, or worse, leaving rubbish behind. And that causes real stress for locals who care deeply about keeping public spaces tidy. So it also places an extra financial burden on shops and train companies, as managing waste disposal comes with added costs. To help solve over-tourism in major cities, the government is encouraging international visitors to visit lesser-known areas, which is great in theory, and many people are genuinely interested. But here's the reality. Rural areas often hold stronger cultural traditions, and the language barriers can be more challenging. So many locals don't speak English and aren't so familiar with foreign customs or behaviors. For example, there's often confusion around the etiquette at traditional inns, like how to use public onsen and what to do in Japanese style tatami room. So even when visitors use translation apps, they often miss the cultural context. And this can lead to misunderstandings, and it places extra pressure on staff who must explain local customs and rules in the language they may not feel confident using. So one way to bridge this gap is with a help of bilingual qualified guides, but licensed guides are often in short supply, especially in rural regions. So that's why it's so important for travelers to gain an understanding of local customs and traditions before they arrive. So it's not only reduces the potential stress, but it opens up opportunity to connect with locals more deeply and have truly meaningful experiences. So in my program, for example, I don't just help people decide where to go or what to do. I help them understand the cultural context behind everyday life here in Japan so they can know exactly how to behave in traditional inns or public transport and in culturally significant places like sacred places, shrines, and temples, and enjoy being there even more. And they can understand why this custom matter to locals so it feels more natural and respectful to follow them. And this can also help build deeper connections with locals, increasing because they would appreciate your behavior. So it can increase your chances of meaningful conversations and memorable experiences. Because when visitors and locals understand each other better, everyone's experience become richer. So that's why I've been trying to do this and provide the package program to travelers.
I think it's amazing because it's the things we don't think about too. And someone like me, just some dumb American who doesn't know what the culture's like, it can be frustrating for both people. Like you said, it can be frustrating for me as the visitor because I'm like, I don't get what, because I don't understand the culture. Them thinking like, what's this guy doing? I could totally can see that. I always understood that, Japanese are very tidy, very clean. I never realized the whole thing with the trash and getting rid of your trash. I never would have thought of that except I talked to you. That's the only reason I even know about that. So I love the fact that you're in here helping with this. I think it's amazing. When what do you think's been the most difficult part of like telling Japan's story to travelers? What's kind of the hardest thing for people to understand?
So I think, for example, that people like you who appreciate and understand the value of, getting to know the cultural norms, culture, culture, customs before coming to Japan. I think that they are great, right? But some of the people who just want to hit the major landmarks, they are like different types of travelers, right? So I
Yeah.
think like yeah, I think like we need to build awareness of, like all these like the importance and significance of knowing the local culture and the custom because that's also the key to gaining deeper experiences to have better interactions with locals, right? Because you want to visit Japan, you want to interact with locals, right? You don't want to just like visit a famous site and observe and don't understand what's going on here. But okay, we take a picture, let's go to another site. You don't want to do that, right? You want to kind of like understand the context of it and you want to interact and have a few conversation with the locals, not a transactional conversation, but more meaningful conversations that gives you the glimpse of their life or their passion, like what they do in everyday life, because that would give you the inspiration, that would give you the insights. And I think that's the the value and importance of travel, and that's kind of the things what I'm encourage more people to realize that yeah.
This begs the question then, do you ever run into when you're talking to people ahead of time, have you ever gotten the vibe where you're like, you know what? Maybe this person's not meant. Maybe they need to just stick to the big cities. Do you ever feel like that? Like, I don't know if they want to, like some people maybe just don't want to ingrain themselves in the culture. Have you ran into that?
So fortunately, so the people I talk to regularly because they know what my passionate about and they know what I'm trying to encourage, right? So these people are already
Yeah.
respectful, respectful travelers, right? So like they are like the type of people who are very much aligned with what I'm like really like trying to introduce them to. my actual concern is that like a lot of people have already been to Japan and they have been to major cities and they think, okay, next time we should explore beyond the cities. But like I said, cities in major cities, there are the people who understand you better. They are the people who can speak at least a bit of English and there are signs. But in the rural areas, less visited area, that's where the local tradition and culture are preserved. And if you go to these places with the same mindset, I'd very much worry the stress and the challenges for the locals. At the same time, if you have a mindset kind of ready to interact with locals in these areas, that's good. But if you go there with the same mindset, that's kind of the the next challenge I'm kind of
Yeah. That's, because I know I started the conversation with it like, okay, a first timer going to Japan. But then they got the people who like to go to Japan, who's been to Japan a few times, mostly probably to the big cities, the big major sites. But then they're like, oh, we've been to Japan. Let's get off the beaten path a little bit. And it's a lot more different. It's different than they're thinking probably. And you want to be there to help them out too. I love that. That's a great point. I didn't even think about that. And you're absolutely right. Because anytime someone goes somewhere, they think, oh, I know it now. But you're right. It's different. Getting outside of those big cities, central Japan, Miyuki's house, totally different. Absolutely. I love that. All right. I need to know, where can people find you? Like someone's okay, there people are listening. They're like, whoa, this sounds awesome. How do I get in touch with Miyuki? How do I do this?
Yes, thank you for asking that. So I'd love to support more travelers coming to Japan by helping them plan and prepare with ease so they can have an amazing trip that feels personal, meaningful, and memorable and create lifelong memories and truly unforgettable experiences. My hope visitors and locals feel more connected, understood, and be able to communicate with each other in a way that feels good for both sides. So if you'd interested in visiting Japan in the future, so feel free to connect with me at Japan Experts on Instagram or check out the Japan Experts podcast, Effortless Planning and Immersive Travel. That's a good starting point. And you are also welcome to download my free Japan travel guide, The 7 Steps to Creating Unique Immersive Experiences. So that's totally free and available on my website, miyukiseguchi.com. That's MIYUKI seguchi.com.
Perfect. I'll include all this in the show notes as well. So everybody can just go right there and click and get that information. That's awesome that you provide a free guide. I think that's fantastic. So thank you for doing that. Couple more questions before we wrap up. Adventure. For you, Miyuki, what does adventure mean to you?
Say, getting to know what you are not familiar with.
100%.
Through interaction with local or through participating in the hands-on activities with locals.
And you experienced that when you went to the UK, when you got on that airplane and flew to Italy from Scotland. Yeah, you adventure all over it. Totally unfamiliar, for sure. All right, I'm going to go through some, I guess we'll call them rapid fire questions, just some kind of quick questions. But for you, since you're Japanese, you know this really good. All right. Favorite Japanese dish to introduce to the first time visitors?
So it might be surprising to you, but I would say udon noodles.
What is it again? Something noodles? What?
We have a wheat-based noodles called udon.
Udon.
Not ramen, udon.
Udon. Udon noodles. Wheat based noodles. Okay. All right. See, this is why I like doing this.
It comes in the hot soup, but you can also eat cold as well if you want.
Okay. I like it. All right. We talked about Osaka, Kyoto, Tokyo. We're really focusing on like those other places. So for you, if someone says, okay, I don't want to go to any of those three big cities, but I can only go to one place that's not any of those three, what's the one place that you should tell them to go to?
I'd say Hikone.
Okay. I'm going to try to say it. Let's go next.
Hikone is a city located by the Lake Biwa, Japan's biggest lake. And that's located in the center of Japan, lovely. And Hikone is castle town where you can experience the original castle from 400 years ago.
Very cool. All right. I love it. That's awesome. All right. We talked about the Japanese culture and it's different but what's a cultural habit that you picked up when you lived abroad that you still have? What's something you picked up from your time in the UK?
Okay, this is a little bit tricky question,
It is.
but I think like maybe like okay, I'd say like people in the UK or people in the Western country usually say they start conversation, "Hi, how are you?
Yes.
How's your weekend?"
Yeah.
Right? But Japanese people, they don't normally ask how they are, unless probably you know them already, like very
Gotcha.
close. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. So, okay, I'm just trying to think this. So, in Japan, instead of me walking up to say, "Hey, how are you?" What do they do in Japan? What do you say
Maybe
instead?
they bow,
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, see, I love this. Okay, yeah, so not just, "Hi, how," yeah,
say hi, how are you?
you picked it up. I love it. All right. For you, Miyuki, a spot in Japan that fills you with inspiration.
Okay, so for example, whenever I visit the studio of artisan or specialist, I feel inspired and I've learned something new. So I take
Awesome.
my guests to like all these like different specialist house studio, like where they do what they are passionate about, right? And that's kind of like the
That
best part of my job, actually. Yeah.
awesome. So when you see people doing something they love with their artistry or whatever, that inspires you. Seeing you do this inspires me. All right, you talked about I can't remember the name of it. I'll butcher the name. The place by the lake. But if you had one day in Japan, just explore completely on your own, no work, no schedule, where are you going? Is it the same place or is it somewhere different?
Me personally,
You personally. Yes, you personally. What's the
wow.
place that you're going? Yeah. You don't have to go there for work. You're just going to have fun. No work, no schedule, just
That's a really difficult question because there are so many places I'd love to visit. And I tend to love visiting new places, actually. Yeah. One of the things I always wanting to do was to visit Hokkaido, northmost island of Japan, to understand more about the Ainu culture, the people, the indigenous people on the
yeah.
island. So that's definitely one thing I always wanting to do, but probably it's not enough for one day.
Yeah, yeah. You need more than one day for that, for sure. Well, this was fantastic. Miyuki, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. It was fun to talk to you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
A huge thank you to Miyuki Seguchi for sharing her journey and such thoughtful insight into what it really means to experience Japan beyond the surface. If today's episode got you dreaming about Japan, be sure to visit MiyukiSeguchi.com, where Miyuki is offering a free guide with 7 ways to make your trip to Japan more authentic and memorable. You can also follow her on Instagram at japan.experts. And as always, thank you for listening. If this episode resonated with you, please share the human adventure with someone in your life who loves travel, culture, and meaningful human connection. It truly helps the show grow. Coming up next week, I'll be joined by Adrian Caldwell, who shares an incredibly powerful story of resilience, healing, and turning deep pain and trauma into purpose. You won't want to miss this one. Until then, remember, it's not always about the destination as it is about the human adventure. Take care, everybody.